How we going, V8 fans? I'm back doing two recaps today. I'm going to do the Phillip Island recap as well as yesterday's Perth SuperSprint as well. And I want to apologise for not uploading the Phillip Island recap as well. Had a little bit of issues with the internet here. We just recently got the NBA network on, so we had to wait a little while until that sort of booted up, I guess. And while that was happening, I couldn't upload any videos. So hopefully today I can let you all know and recap you guys on what's been happening over the last 4 weeks now that we haven't really seen each other. So I'll just get straight into it. So Phillip Island was a very, very interesting weekend. We had some rain start off the weekend. And then obviously that cleared once the races and all that started. But the big talking point was the big tyre issues that everyone had during the week. And there was a lot. There was a hell of a lot of tyres deflating, exploding pretty much, and just going off in all different directions. But we just want to give you a heads up on who got tyre issues. So we had Chaz Mostert and Scotty Pye getting two deflations during race 5. Also Percat as well. He also got a suspension problem as well. That kind of didn't help his situation there. Fabian Coulthard also copped the tyre deflation. He was also in the lead at the time too, so that was kind of the turning point of the race. Rick Kelly also, Cam Waters, Courtney, Caruso, Blanchard, Tim Slade, and Jason Bright. So there's just a few. I might have missed out a few drivers, but they're pretty much like some big names there, guys, that had issues during the week. And during the race as well. So they ended up turning everything around, and hopefully they can sort out the 18 alloy inch issue that happened there. They all obviously sent those tyres overseas for testing just to see what happened and whatever else. My personal opinion is that that new exit out of the last corner there coming onto the main straight, it's a little bit extended, and just the load that the cars take onto that ripple strip, and then obviously the tyres don't really handle that kind of pressure heading into the first corner, which is very, very high speed. And when you look back, guys, it was pretty much all right fronts or right rears that exploded. There was very rare left wheel action, but yeah, it was a really, really hectic race. As well as that, guys, we had so many people pitting for tyres as well. Chaz Mostert and Michael Caruso pitted 5 times during that race. Mind you, it was only it was like 40 odd laps or something like that in that matter. But yeah, it was very, very crazy, and everyone else sort of had like 4 or 3, and occasionally got their 2 pit stoppers. But yeah, Michael Caruso and Chaz Mostert getting 5 pit stops during that race was just absolutely insanity. So and from where they finished on the grid as well, that kind of caps out a good race, I guess. But as well as that too, another big talking point was the 15-second time penalties that everyone copped. We had Scott McLaughlin come into pit lane and crossed over the pit line. Well, that's what I'm calling it anyway. Crossed over a pit line and copped a 15-second time penalty as well. And I think it was Mark Scaife who commented that if you rewind if you have a look at the replays and whatever else of everyone coming in, I guarantee everyone's doing it. And that's what they did. They replayed everything, and then you got Simona doing it, Winterbottom did it, Lowndes did it, Holsworth, Percat, Shane Van Gisbergen, and there was a few people that copped 15-second time penalties because of that issue. And if you didn't catch up on Instagram at all, after that race was finished, David Reynolds went up with a witch's hat and put it on the mark there, so no one could actually go through it anymore. And it was funny because I went to the community fun day in Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking to Reynolds about that issue, and he's like, yeah, it was just fucking stupid how no one knows how to drive and all this other stuff. So it was pretty funny to get a laugh out of Reynolds. But yeah, it was a very serious issue at the time. Scotty was leading the race, and that kind of put him down in the grid a little bit as well. But Fabs ended up winning ahead of Lowndes. No, Lowndes was in front of him. The safety car came out with a handful of laps to go, and Lowndes was leading at that time, but he still had to cop that 15-second time penalty. Now, you don't have to pit at all with that 15-second time penalty. If you finish the race with that 15-second time penalty, it will just get booted back onto your time when you finish, and you'll just get shuffled back down into the positions a little bit. So after the safety car came in at the last lap, they all came out of the last corner, and Lowndes just took off. You know, he just wants to get as much time as he possibly can, and everyone was sort of dawdling behind him because, you know, it's on the safety car and whatever else. So Lowndes took off. Fab sort of followed him, not as much though, but Lowndes just took off heaps far, but still ended up getting booted back heaps. But Fabian Coulthard ended up winning that race, and it was a really, really good weekend for Shell Power as well. Jamie Whincup, I think it was his first podium of the year so far, so it was good to, I'm not really a Jamie Whincup fan, but it was good to see him on the podium again. And big congratulations to Gary Rogers Motorsport with Garth Tander getting that third place as well. It was a really, really big turning point for them. James Moffat didn't really have the best weekend, obviously, but you know, obviously that stuff happens, guys. You know, it's racing, and that's what's fun about it. So that was pretty much all for race 5. Race 6, we started really, really well. It took 23 laps for the first tyre deflation to come out, and sadly enough, it was Shane Van Gisbergen. Safety car came out after 2 laps after that. Jamie Whincup pitted as well. The safety car came out not because of an accident or anything, but there was just so much tyre debris on the racetrack that they just had to sort of clean it all up, and that's what they did. So the safety car came out then, and Fabian later on in the race pitted as well for tyres and went to the pit exit, and in the corner of his eye you could see the red light, meaning like stop at the line so you can, you know, take off. But he completely ignored, not completely ignored it, but must have not have thought it was on, and just went straight out. And he ended up stopping just past the line for about a couple of seconds and then took off again. So he copped a penalty for that as well, sadly enough, because he was going really, really well in the race. There wasn't really that much after it. Apart from the last couple of laps, you had Michael Caruso, Rick and Todd Kelly fighting for position. That was really, really cool. The 3 Nissan boys having a go at each other. Simona was somewhere down the back having fun, you know. Yeah, that was actually a really, really cool battle to watch. Caruso sort of hit Todd, and it was sort of bumper to bumper throughout the whole way, throughout that lap, which was pretty cool. But I would have not liked to be in that driver's briefing after the race. So, but race 6, guys, Chaz Mostert ended up winning in front of Winterbottom, and another big congratulations to Erebus Motorsport for David Reynolds as well, who got 3rd place. And I was quite disappointed about Reynolds because he didn't end up doing his typical podium shoey that Daniel Ricciardo does in the F1s, but it was good to see him on the podium again, and yeah, it's always good to see. But other than that, Chaz got a $3,000 fine. You guys probably already know this already, but Chaz got a $3,000 fine for doing burnout. Now, I was a little bit skeptical about it because, you know, you see Gizzy doing burnouts, you see McLaughlin doing burnouts, and Chaz got fined because of one reason. His engineer said, all right, you can do a burnout, but make sure it's after turn 1 and all the cars have passed you. So Chaz was sort of, oh, do I do it now? Is it alright to do my burnout? And So yeah, they said yes, and he started doing the burnout, which, by God, guys, it was one of the best burnouts I've ever seen on the track. It was absolutely awesome. But sadly enough, he didn't let everyone pass, and when he sort of rejoined, sort of fishtailed back onto the track, and Jason Bright was pretty much right behind him and almost collected him, and Scaife was like, ooh, gee, that was close. So it was a little bit hairy there, but big congratulations to Chaz and Super Chip Auto for winning that race. And yeah, that's pretty much all what happened during the Phillip Island recap, guys. So I'm going to just cut this out for a second, and I'll join you back for the Perth Super Sprint recap in just a second. So guys, now the Perth SuperSprint recap as well. It was a very good weekend. If anything, it was the only, apart from Clipsal, it's one of the only races that we've had all year that it hasn't looked like it's rained or did rain. So and yesterday's race was actually really good. It was 31 degrees, and it was just a beautiful day in Perth. But we're not here to talk about just one race, we're here to talk about both. So race 7, we had Scotty McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard get pole and second place, obviously. So Shell Power 1-2 to start off, and I'm pretty sure that's Wing Cup and SVG got 3rd and 4th. So it was Shell Power and Red Bull first 2 rows. But Scotty Mac and Fabian Coulthard, once the green light went, boom, they were gone. They absolutely bolted. After the first 3 laps, they were nearly 2 seconds clear of everybody else. So big, friggin', there's been a lot of speed in those 2 cars this year. And I tell you what, guys, they're going to be a really big contender this year. But as well as that, first couple of laps in, Courtney and Wood were swapping paint. They were trading positions all the time, and that was the only. Sadly enough, it was the only real good battle that Courtney had all weekend was with Wood in race 7. So sadly enough, he didn't have the best race weekend. If you guys haven't seen, he was really upset and actually apologised to all the fans for a really poor weekend. And to be honest, guys, Perth is one of those racetracks where you have absolutely no grip whatsoever. The track changes every time they go there. It is so slippery. It's like pretty much driving at Bathurst with slicks on in the wet. So it is a very hard racetrack to conquer. Wing Cup and SVG, Wing Cup passed Shane Van Gisbergen, and then pretty much he bolted as well, gained a couple of seconds there. Scotty came in to pit as well, and he came out in front of I think it was Simona and Caruso, sort of drifted in between them, and Fabian was right behind him, and that was for position as well. So it was really good battle. Fabs ended up catching up, but didn't end up getting anywhere close to Scotty. Once Scotty got out in front, man, he was gone. But Mostert as well in race 7, not really the best result he would have wanted. He got passed by Van Gisbergen and Winterbottom in the matter of 2 laps. So, and they were also for position. I think Mostert at the time was in 3rd, and you had Winterbottom pass him for 3rd, and then Gizzy passed him for 4th, which was sad enough for him because he had a lot of great pace during race 8. But Scotty ended up winning ahead of Fabs, and Wing Cup also got on the podium as well, which was great. And if you guys seen it, right at the end of the race, we had pretty much one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was 4 cars wide heading across the finish line. It was all for position too. You had Courtney, Caruso, Pye and Waters, and it was so cool to see them 4 just battle it out until like the last couple of meters of the race. So that was actually really cool to watch. But Scotty wins ahead of Fabs. He was a couple seconds in front, and Fabs was a couple seconds in front of Wing Cup as well. So big congratulations. There's been a lot of speed, like I said before, with the Shell Power cars, and for them to get another 1-2 at Perth was really cool. But race 8 as well, guys. Everyone had a good start. It was very clean racing throughout the whole thing. Surprising enough, there was no safety car at all, and that is a really big factor. Surprising enough, because we are 75 or 76% safety car rating at Perth. We did have a few safety cars during race 7, but none whatsoever at race 8. But everyone had a good start. Cam Waters came in at lap 9 and pitted early for fuel and fresh rubber, which was good. And then he sort of got booted back down in there every time when the other guys pitted, he sort of went up in the list, and then he would pit, and then he went back down. So obviously that's what happens when you race, obviously. Rouleau copped a 15-second time penalty because of the contact with Lowndes. Lowndes was heading into pit lane, and Rouleau sort of just hit him, and sadly enough sort of rotated Lowndesy, and then the way that Lowndes sort of came into pit lane was actually quite like sad in a way, because he was looking really pacey, Craig Lowndes, and I think this year he won't be a top contender. He's not in the top 5 of the Drivers' Championship so far, but it's still early days, guys. So for all the Craig Lowndes fans out there, don't give up. So don't give up too quickly. He will bounce back. He always does, especially around endurance time when Bathurst and Gold Coast and Sandown happens as well. And big. On a sad note as well, James Courtney with the grip this week was just absolutely terrible. I mentioned before that he apologised to all the fans, and he just struggled all weekend. And it was sad because Courtney's one of those guys that is always very competitive. He's always pushing as far as what the car can do. And sadly enough, this week the car just didn't want to go any further than his required limits in the car, and he ended up having a really bad race 8. But Rouleau as well, coming into turn 7, just locked the rear, locked the fronts, and sort of went off in the sand trap, and didn't cause a safety car because Rouleau actually got out and managed to keep going in front of that. But there was dust and sand and dirt just all over the track, and there was a few drivers that had an issue coming into turn 7, or coming out of turn 7 onto the main straight, and they were just sort of sliding around everywhere. But Fabian came in for pits. Sorry, Coulthard came in to get a new fresh set of rubber. Sort of booted him back down in the list a little bit, but then he ended up passing SVG, and on that lap as well, copped a 56.4314 time. Now, on race pace and whatever else, that is actually really quick. I looked yesterday that Jason Bright holds the record for the race lap record there, and it was a 55.4 or some stuff like that, and that was back in 2004. So you can just imagine how advanced these cars are now to what they were back in 2004, and they're still not lapping as quick as what those cars were back in those days. So big congratulations to Fab getting the race record. Oh, well, not the race record, but the lap record for that race as well. Scotty had another good race as well. He was 5 seconds clear of Chaz Mostert with only 3 laps to go, and it was actually really cool. Mostert was very consistent during the weekend, and I mean very consistent. He finished in the top 10 in both races. He was in the top 10 for most of the practices, and he was on the front row, I'm pretty sure, for qualifying. So he got second place there. But big congratulations to the Super Cheap Auto crew. They're working really hard on overall speed for Chaz, and Chaz is just delivering, guys. He is absolutely nailing it. Every single race he gets better and better. And a lot of people said that he'll never be the same after his big crash back in 2015 up at Bathurst when he broke his leg and whatever else. Now, mind you, he didn't win a race last year. Chaz Mostert didn't win a race last year, and I kind of think that it's kind of because of that. But for him to get the results this year and keep on that consistent level is really good. But Scotty McLaughlin won race 8 in front of Chaz Mostert, and Jamie Whincup as well got third place on the podium as well. But other than that, guys, it was an absolutely awesome weekend. I'm going to leave the championship standings at the last bit of the video so you guys can have an idea on where everyone is. Oh, well, not everybody, it's just the top 5. But give you an idea on where they are in points. It is very close. I'm not kidding. It is so close between the top 5. I think it's like a matter of 100 odd points or some stuff like that. But it's going to be one of those years, guys. It is absolutely awesome. I'm loving the racing at the moment. It is so awesome. I'm hoping my man Lee Holsworth gets on the podium at Winton in a couple of weeks' time. I'm dying for it. He's always strong there. So in that, guys, Lee Holsworth is my dark horse for Winton in a couple of weeks' time. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed the recaps from both Phillip Island and Perth this weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all after Winton. Cheers.